Right. We are here. Hello, hello. So it's Carissa Marie, and I have Miss Heather Lee here with me. That rhymes.
It does. Christopher Heatherly. You're right. All this time we didn't know that.
I never noticed that. So we are. I'm so excited to do this because I feel like it's what I need to do. I need to do this for me. You know what I mean? So I'm excited to be here. And you all remember Miss Heather Lee? We had her on. Was it in the summertime? Or
Yeah, I can't even. Oh my gosh, time flies. I can't even remember now.
I know, and it was, and just so you know, Heather, and I meant to I meant to email this to you. I'm going to find the email. YouTube sent me my highest rated viewerships for 2022, and you were the one.
Yay! I'm
I
so
know, right?
happy. That's
I
what's
thought,
up.
yeah, I'll have to share that. It was really kind of exciting thing to see. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's because me and you don't have to work at having conversations.
hmm
And so it just kind of flows.
Yeah. It's fluid. Absolutely. Hey, Chris, I have a question for you though.
Yes.
You said I need to do this for me. Tell me more because I'm curious.
So I have list of things that I feel like I need to accomplish. Those are daily lists, sometimes weekly lists, monthly lists, and then there are bigger goals. And I realize that to get to some of my bigger goals, although it is sometimes uncomfortable, it may be inconvenient. I know that I have to check off those little things in between to get those goals. And so like when I say I need to do this, I feel like I'm I'm where I want to be right now. Meaning, I love talking to the ladies that I have on my show. I love the feeling I get when I get enlightenment when they open their mouths. You know what I'm saying? I love what we're doing here. And so when I make excuses for myself, like, well, I'm not going to do it this week because I'm working on my podcast, trying to get that organized. That's not wise because what I'm doing is selling myself short. Because all those things are tools, and it's the getting ready that I need to be doing for my bigger goals. So when I say I need to do it, I like really need to um, use my stick to itness. I say that word for my kids. I don't think it's a word, but I really to stick to the plan. I need to stick to what it is I've committed myself to doing. And that's the need to be better at sticking and committing to what it is I have to do. That was a lot, wasn't it?
No, but it was dead on because a little background for everyone. We talked yesterday about doing this live
Mm-hmm.
and the whole thing committed. And one of the things that has so I hate to use the word impressed, but inspired is probably a better word. And me about you is your commitment to this, platform. And so, based on what you've just said, when you're like, I need to do it, it's on my checklist. Do you feel like it's part of your purpose?
Absolutely. And if I'm being even more honest, when I don't do it, I sort of feel like I missed something. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
I
Like
do.
I feel kind of like because I took a long break, maybe no, not last summer, but I took a
Mhm.
long break before I really got back into it, and I felt like something was missing. Like I felt like this is not right.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I knew that okay, so if this doesn't feel good, and it was a positive thing, then I should be doing it.
Mhm. Do you? How do you feel when you do it?
Man, I'm like it's like Christmas every day when I do it. I mean, no lie. Like it's like I don't even know how to describe it. It's doesn't feel like I am attempting to do a thing. It just happens.
Fluid. It's natural. It's like an extension of you. Okay.
Mhm.
And then my last question on this was, man, I just lost it. But that's That's pretty powerful. Oh, okay. So here's my last question on this was, because today you were tired, right? You had a long work day, but you're still showing up for this. So it's kind of like an alternate means of like energy and endurance. Is that right?
Oh yeah.
Okay. That's
Yeah.
so powerful. You know, I'm going to tell you why I feel it is. It's because I think your why and your purpose drives your commitment to do something. You know, when you're in sync with, when you're on purpose, it gives you the fuel to stay committed.
Yeah.
And because one of the things that I know that is a part of my purpose, I'm not actively doing it right now in terms of instructing, but teaching spin is something that I can do no matter how much energy I have or not. If somebody called me right now and said, Heather, can you teach spin tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock? I'd be, yeah, because it's just something that I would make it happen.
Yeah.
And, or if someone said, Heather, just like you did yesterday, Heather, would you mind, speaking on my platform and conversating? I was like, yeah, because that's like nothing to me. I'm like, of course, and usually like after work, I'm like, no, I'm not doing anything. Like, no, and, so it's just, it's important, I think, to recognize that. Cause as we talked about staying committed and that whole thing, this is like the secret mix, so.
Here's how I know I'm committed, Heather. And I started to tell you before we went live, but I didn't tell you the whole thing.
Okay.
So get ready. You know how
okay, I'm ready.
So, all right, so I'm at work and and it's dark and I don't like leaving work dark because I drive. It's a little distant and I'm in the car and my husband is calling me. He's calling me to say, dinner's on me. What do you want? Tell me what you want. You have to text. Now, my dilemma is I'm looking at the clock like, I do not have time to do this. I just don't. I have got to get back to town, right? And so I'm trying to explain to him, Michael, I really can't right now. He's like, it only takes a minute. It only takes a minute. So I attempted to. So I had to get gas anyway. So I got my gas. I attempted to get the thing I wanted, which was is it a poke bowl? Anyway.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
I wanted to get that, but the place that I wanted to get it from, they were low on a lot of the vegetables parts that I wanted. So I didn't want it, And so I just called him. I said, don't worry about it. I'm not stressed about it. I can't, that's not going to happen. So I'm thinking we're done. And I'm trying to drive in some sort of peace because you're already a mess, kind of just getting off of work, and so I like that time to kind of defrag and get back to myself. Yeah. You know what I mean? And then the call came again, and I'm a few exits off, away from my exit to get home. And I'm like, Michael, I love you so much, but like, I just can't. I cannot order the food. And you know what? You know why? He's probably having a disconnect. This is why I know I'm committed. He's probably having a moment like, what's wrong with this girl? Because I am a food child. I don't turn down no food. And here I am like, absolutely, I cannot. I got to get home. I got to get, I won't have time to do anything. I have to go. And so that's not how I know, but it was an aha moment kind of for me. Like, oh my gosh, this is serious. Like, I have turned down food because I knew that I need to get to my destination, which is that. It seems little, but it's not, because I don't.
It's not little at all.
Told me would have been like, we're gonna be 10 minutes late because I'm gonna have to come. I have to find a place. Right. I was just not. I'm not even hungry. That's literally. I'm literally not hungry for that. So, but yeah, that was. He's out in the world right now driving back from somewhere, getting the kids something.
Yeah. No, but I get why you're not. I mean, in my mind, here's where my mind goes. It's like, I really literally think, I mean, scripture and God is close to my heart. And so I think there's physical food and spiritual food. Mm-hmm. And I think that when you're feeding your vision and purpose and things of that matter, sometimes you're tapping into a different type of food and different type of nourishment. Mm-hmm. because I know that when I'm like in my zone doing something that is on purpose for me, I can get 3 hours of sleep. Like literally, just when my last website, when I was working on that and plugging away, I just set some erroneous deadline for myself. I want it done by this date, and that's pretty much what I did. I got maybe 2 to 3 hours of sleep, got back up, and I wasn't tired. It was like in it. So I just think that's amazing. It's a beautiful thing, and I think that the reason why I really wanted to mention that when you're like, I have to do this, is because that's different terminology, have to. It's, and you didn't say it in a way that was laborsome. You said it like, no, this is something I'm assigned to do. And that's why I had to ask the question, because so many people are floating and don't know what they're designed to do. And, and I didn't even think about the connection between, staying committed and knowing that's what you're designed to do. And that it's actually, of course, we talked about our topic today, and I was sharing with you that recently I've been, working out more, and my goal is to stay committed to it, because I'll have a goal. Okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And then I will fall off if something gets on my nerve, I get in the mood, something, whatever. And now I'm looking at my relationship with my goals, and how I stay committed. And there's a couple of things that are driving that commitment. One is vision. I have gained, from my perspective, a considerable amount of weight. I'm used to being like a size 6 and 8. A little bit more curvy than that right now. Still getting the attention, but still I'd like to. Okay, but I'd like to lean down, right?
Yeah.
Just because I love clothes, we know that, and I have a wardrobe that I'd like to wear, because I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a whole new wardrobe if you just fit back in. So that's one thing, and then two. But ultimately, I see myself as lean and mean, not mean, but lean. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I see myself doing certain things and presenting and being on stage, and the embodiment of excellence. And that's very lean in tone. So that's another thing. Then it's how I feel when I work out. I feel like I'm committing to myself. It's something like, which is a beautiful thing. It's a different thing, because I used to wake up and immediately think about work. Immediately, the first thing I would do when I get up was check my email. And now, fortunately, I'm in a work environment that's a little bit more balanced in terms of people leave at a certain time, they have to take lunch, and so. But before, I was like work, and then I never felt like it was enough. A little bit of people pleasing. I can't blame anyone else. That was me. And so now I'm like, okay, Heather, you can only do so much, but first fill your cup, because you can't pour into anyone else until you filled your own cup. So that's really what working out to me is now. It's like me filling my cup, those endorphins, and now I know I can serve other people better. So that's another thing. And then it's also having friends or sisters like you. I think it reminds me of this Marianne Williamson quote. And part of the line in the quote says, let your light shine, and you liberate others to do the same. So my observation of you and your endurance with your show and ability to stay committed, because that was the area, where I'm trying to build. And that's why it's so important to me to have friends that are elevated in different areas than you are, so that you can learn from that. Because, biblically it says iron sharpens iron. So me looking at you has inspired me, and it's almost given me a second win, like when you're running and you're like, and then you get your second win. So me just looking at you, and you're like, and that's why it was literally a no-brainer for me to say, of course I'll be on your show, because it's like, this is the opportunity. Like, why would, so there's so many different things. And one of our mutual friends, Dominique, said to me recently, we were talking about commitment and stuff like that. And she said, because I said, hey, I like to have a system for success, in part. And so I have, like lay out my clothes, at night and just make sure it's easy for me. And she's like, it's like cutting checks to yourself, you know? And I said, oh, I like that. You know what I mean? It's kind of, writing checks to yourself. Okay, here, there's our goal. This is what we're going to do. And pay up. You wrote it out now, stuff like that. So, a lot of good stuff here.
Wow. I like that. I'm going to have to write that down.
Mm-hmm.
It's true. Investing in yourself. I was listening to something and I wish I had. I'm going to try to find it. On my way home, I was listening to this young man. His name is Chad. Remember Chad's last name? But he wrote this. I'm going to put my reading glasses on so I can see things.
Okay. I noticed you were extra when you put them on. All
But
right.
this is so. I'm gonna find it. His name is Chad Sanders, and I
Okay.
like this too.
Okay.
Chad Sanders. The name of his little audio,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it's just a podcast. It's called Direct Deposit.
Okay. Oh, interesting.
And what it is, it's about pouring into yourself. But
Mm-hmm.
what he has done is kind of like he's on a mission to find out people who have been successful in living out their purpose.
Okay.
He's nosy enough to know what exactly are they doing, like what are they doing, and he's had um, like social media people on who are just kind of blown up. And I don't know if you know I think it's called Slutty Vegan.
Yeah. Well, maybe.
You may have heard the name.
Yeah, I feel like I've heard the name. Yeah.
Um, anyway, she's real big now and she's living out her dream. But he's had all kind of guests on his show to talk about um, commitment, because really it is about a commitment in yourself, investing in yourself. And when you mention things like laying out your outfit for the next day, that
Yes.
all matters. It's all about because you are your biggest asset, and you have to package yourself, and
Absolutely.
and to be taken seriously. I mean, so I recommend anyone, and I don't know, that just came to me because when you said that, I thought, oh my goodness, it was something that in a chapter he had just mentioned. But it's about investing in yourself, and you do kind of lose sight of time and things that they're frivolous when you have a mission in mind. I've done it too. When I was doing tracks or I'm trying to do a promo, I will stay up till 2 or 3, and I don't feel tired because I'm so driven to get the task done.
Yeah.
And and I know that task is going to move me and propel me toward a bigger mission. And also being patient is so important.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go
Yeah.
ahead.
So I have to, the biggest example to me of, well, okay. Again, prior to our conversation, I was just looking at commitment, and then I didn't really connect it with purpose. And then that's where, of course, we've evolved in our conversation today. With that being said, I got to tell you, the biggest example of purpose driven commitment is my father. And before I give you the example, the reason why I think it's so important for us all, and I'm really passionate about this, to walk in purpose. Now, mind you, that's part of my life calling. Like, I know that my why, when I think of my personal golden circle, like why, how, what, my why is that I really believe that Jehovah God has given us all a unique purpose. So unique that when you look at each of our handprints, it's different, right? Fingerprints. So I'm like, and I recently shared this during a corporate meeting, and I said, because they asked me to, go through Simon Schumach's Golden Circle and present it, and I said, um, just as unique as your fingerprint is, so is your gifting.
Mm-hmm.
Now, no matter if it's the same seat, like, oh, we're two graphic designers, but you've got something different. So I think once people tap into that, and I will say that a lot of times people are like, okay, great, Heather, that sounds great and pretty, blah, blah. How do I tap into it? I really believe it's the thing that you are naturally good at that you take for granted. Mm-hmm. Recently, people have said to me just, in the last week or so, and I'm trying to think, I was at European Wax Center, getting beauty treatment and somewhere else. And then I was just talking to the girl and she said, wow, I could listen to you for a long time. I really but that's part of my gifting. That's beyond me, and do I need to refine it and, learn how to articulate even better? Absolutely. But anyways, it's your gifting. I really truly believe is, again, the thing that you just do naturally. My cousin Ricky, he is so good at being a great listener and extracting information and getting you to think. And I'm like, dude, you need to be some sort of counselor, things of that matter. But I do think that when you identify your gift, you have, I think the right word is fortitude. You have that energy to do it almost in a supernatural way. And what I mean by that is you were tired today, but you still have the energy to do it, that second wind. Now, going back to my father, who is about to be 76 in April, he was known in Lansing, Michigan for his street ministry. Part of, he's got a different ministry that, quite honestly, he's always stretching me emotionally because sometimes I'm like, color in the box, Dad. He's not meant to color in the box. I mean, you wouldn't think the daughter's like color in the box, but, I am like, come on, Dad, don't make it, And what I mean is years ago, I think I've shared with people that, I'd take him to a, foo bougie gym, and he'd be on the treadmill doing these like karate moves and all this other stuff. But that man was also running an hour forward, running an hour backwards. I can only maybe run backwards for maybe 10 minutes. So he was tapping into something spiritual, right? So, and I eventually I was, first I was like, Dad, will you stop it? Like we're at this like upskill gym, and now I'm like, okay, that's his thing. And kind of honestly, I kind of do that now too. To some degree, we become our parents. But anyway, so he colors outside the lines, which is beautiful. So in Lansing, he would go, his street ministry was color outside the lines. He'd go on the street and he would put his hand up to the sky. And recently he explained to me in scripture why he does that. And since he's in Florida now with me, I became aware that he was doing it here, which, being a very protective daughter, it was hard for me. It still is hard because I'm very protective. Is he okay? But let me tell you, on Tuesday of this week, at 75 years, 70, almost going to be, you might as well say 76 because April will be 76. He was out doing his street ministry for 10 hours. 10 hours straight.
Wow.
And I know I couldn't do 10 hours straight
in
this because this is not my ministry or calling.
Yeah.
You know what I have done for almost 10 hours straight? When I was in Atlanta, Georgia, taking a cycle bar certification, I cycled for probably 6 to 8 hours.
My goodness.
You see what I'm saying, though?
Yeah.
When you're walking in alignment, there's a point where I believe that you hit your stride. Mm-hmm. That's your anointing. Mm-hmm. It's like running. When you start out running, I'm tired. And we give up before we tap into our anointing. But when you do, you hit your stride and you say, I can do this forever.
Yeah.
So I think, and that allows, but we got to stay committed to the uncomfortable phase.
Mm-hmm.
of discovering what we can truly do.
That's good. You know, I mean, that's word, Heather. And I think
Thank you, Charissa.
I'm just saying, like, but what the things that you say, I know that we influence each other, you and I,
Yeah,
and so I'm letting that sink in because I'm going to need to recall that and use that tool, exercise that muscle. I think that also sometimes we allow whether, and we don't mean to, those people that are close to us, they could be family or friends, to influence what we do with our dreams or goals because they don't have a really good understanding of it and they don't need to. And so the tricky part is, and I hope this doesn't come off wrong, you have to know who to share those dreams and goals with and then who not to, because it only takes somebody talking in your ear, and we all think we're strong and we got this. However, we're human. You know what I mean? We got to be careful and to protect that so we can stay in our stride. Don't let the outside noise interrupt what we know we're supposed to do.
absolutely. Absolutely. 100%. And that's why the older I get, which I guess, people would say is typical. I mean, I was always into, to some degree into the word and things of that matter, but, you know, that's why just spiritual discernment is so important
Mhm.
to me because it's word, right? And I was just talking to my dad about this yesterday. I said, for me, working out is now like putting on, where the Bible says, put on the full armor of God. And because you do have to protect your spirit, because again, then you go into Ephesians 6:12, and it says, we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but principalities and things in higher places. So it's very much of a spiritual battle. And I do think that more than ever, I think that we're there's a lot of spiritual warfare. For me, when I hear about kids going to school and shooting up or killing their parents, all that is this demonic attack to me. And I think that not only do we have to guard ourselves with friends, we just have to guard our spirit in entirety. The music that we listen to, the things that we watch, everything that we take in, because again, that even goes back, biblically. It talks about the process of, in that case, it's sin, but anything against yourself is also sin. If you have a purpose and you're doing something against yourself, that's, hurting you. And so it talks about how you see something, you think through it, and then it manifests. So I think that, I know in my case, I'm working on getting more focused. And part of that in my case is making sure my energy is very clear and I don't do anything that dilutes my lens. Recently, that's involved even stepping away from drinking just because it wasn't edifying me. And I was listening to Steve Harvey because I typically listen to a motivational message every morning. And Steve said, I don't want anything to take away from clear thought.
Mhm.
And he said, so I might drink on occasion, but I don't drink to any extent where it's altering any of my movements.
Mhm.
And he said, I might have a little sip with a cigar, blah, blah, blah. And I listen to people like that are very successful. And I'm like, you know what, that makes a lot of sense to me, so, because I haven't researched it, but I really do think, I don't think anything is wrong with alcohol. Do what you want to do. None of my business. And I like that for me. I do think that there's something to when they call alcohol spirits.
Yeah.
I do. I know personally there's been times where I felt that I have been my spirit has been open to other spirits as a result of drinking. And it reminds me in this last thought of this movie Fallen with Denzel Washington. And in that movie, Denzel has a very strong spirit. So these basically demons can't get into him. But they jump from person to person, which is also biblical because I know when Christ, I believe, or one of his apostles rebuked a demon from somebody and went into the swine. And yeah, so just all kinds of stuff. So I think, whatever works for you. My system for success right now, it's getting out, working out, laying out my clothes, packing my lunch at night, clearing my energy, nothing, just making sure I'm clear and focused, because at this point in my life, I'm like, listen, you're either going to go to good to great now or never, you know?
Yeah. Oh, wow, Heather. That's right. And I didn't know, speaking of Steve Harvey, I love listening to the motivational
Mm-hmm.
piece that he does every morning. And sometimes, and the crazy thing is, my kids, I think they're growing out of it a little bit, but because
Mm-hmm.
when they were small, that's what I would listen to in the morning. We were overseas, would listen to it. I mean, because you can get it.
Mm-hmm.
And they love Steve Harvey. And so,
Wow.
right, they think he's a funny old man. I think I think he reminds them slightly of my dad, who's a
Oh,
funny
I
old
can see
man.
that. I can totally see that.
He's
Oh
a
my
funny
God.
old man, but he gives wisdom, right? And so sometimes in the morning, especially when I know that they are maybe anxious about a thing, they get up at 6 anyway. I will go put it in their room, especially
Right.
my son, so they can hear these positive affirmations in the morning from a man. I think sometimes, oh, hi.
Looks like
Okay.
you got a treat.
Thank you. That was my son.
Aw.
Uh, speaking of which, so yeah, I think it's kind of I like that. It's funny that I did not realize that you were into Steve Harvey either. But I always am looking for people and things and that edify, that are positive, that are doing big things that I can aspire to, because anyone can get with that. People feel overwhelmed sometimes because they think, the imposter syndrome, because
Right.
I have to say I'm aware that I have that too. But
Mm-hmm.
we are just regular people. But sometimes it helps to, and they don't even realize they're being ministered to. That's the beauty and all that. We can find someone that we enjoy what they're doing, or we see the great things that they're doing, and they're giving us good message. Like Issa Rae, that's my person too. Like I love
Mm-hmm.
your things that she's
Mm-hmm.
talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Oprah Winfrey, Michelle
Absolutely.
Obama. There
Yeah.
are people that, for me, that when they're speaking, I'm like, okay, hold up, I have to listen. Because I really, really look up to those things, or sometimes it brings me joy and comedy, like Steve. But I'm trying to share with my kids who's watching what I do, and they're watching how I get inspiration and how do I get motivated to be committed to do the things I want to do. I'm trying to show them it's okay to find someone outside of mommy, that's positive, that you can listen to, and give you some inspirations. But anyway, I'm just moved by the fact that we had that in common. I did not know
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
about that, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I just think there's so many people on YouTube, and yeah, Steve Harvey's one of my favorites. Who did I listen to today? Trying to think of it. Oh, today I think I was listening to TD Jakes, but oftentimes I'll just share them with my friends. I know I've shared, I think, a video with you, but I just, and I usually do it if the person just comes up in my spirit, and I'm like, all right, this, I don't even know if it's for the person or not, but I don't know, but that's my thing. Feeding my first food of the morning is, working out and word. That's my breakfast, and that's what fuels me. And I had a conversation with a team member today, and and she said before, Heather, you're always happy. You're always happy. And I said, my brain is now engineered, towards optimism because pessimism weighs me down. And so I just feed myself good stuff because you are what you eat, whether it be physically or spiritually, and another, just because I like books, another book that references that is James Allen, As a Man Thinketh. And he says, your mind is likened to a garden. You can either actively cultivate it or let it run wild, but either way, it's going to produce. Right? So you can tend to the garden of your mind, or you can let it run wild. Now, if you let it run wild, you're going to get weeds in there, but you can harvest it and then, produce some good fruit. And that's one of my favorite books, As a Man Thinketh.
Oh, that is a good book. I forgot about that book. That's a good, you got to have that in your arsenal.
Yeah, that's one of those that you can read over and over. The one I want to read again is the seven spiritual laws of success. That's a good one because it also talks about the law of like intention, so having your vision and things like that, but also detachment, where you're letting it flow, versus like, I want this. No, just let it flow. It'll come to you. You're a creative being, flow, speak it and just go. And I'm like, yeah, that's the space I'm residing in right now. It's going to flow. Everything's going to flow.
I can hear that in your voice. But you know what's so wonderful is I am blessed to be able to have a friend. So people, I call this friend sometimes at 7 something in the morning. Okay, but
and I'm happy to receive your
I
call.
know, and we do that sometimes, because it's like, okay. In fact, I think the other day, yesterday, I said, "Are you driving?" Because that's the best time. Because
Yeah.
we're both driving. To be able to talk to you like that, and I just wish all people had that someone like that in their life. And sometimes I'll call for one thing, but I would have gotten so much more from you, and it's a beautiful thing, and you just don't even know, you just do it by accident because it's
You're fine.
you.
Well, I'm flattered that you say that. I've got to say, I adore your spirit, Chris. I think um, you have a beautiful balance of innocence and a childlike energy complemented by wisdom, immense wisdom. And that's a beautiful mix. It's just a beautiful mix. And so we can laugh at ourselves and be quirky, and then we can also talk about something heavy and relationships and life and marriage and success and all the other stuff. And to have that range is a blessing because some people are very like one dimensional, so we can just be free. And I think we've always been this way, which is really, I think we were just meant to be sisters. I mean, because was never a point where we like saw each other where we're like, I'm not gonna be cool with you. We were just like, hey, okay. And then it's like, and to give the folks a little history is like we were hired at this fitness center, and diversity wasn't a thing.
Right.
About and from what I understand, the first woman of color that they hired at this location.
Wow.
And then Charissa was hired. You were hired, and I think the folks were aware enough that they thought that we, based on our differences, not based on some commonalities, differences, that we wouldn't get along. And which was interesting that they even had that in their portfolio of thoughts and in their wallet of thinking. And so but it was absolutely the opposite. You and I were like sisters, and we were like, what were y'all thinking? So, so, um, but that shows you to me that what one person might orchestrate for ill will, God can maneuver for something much greater and bigger. And who knows, we could have ministered to her in ways that we didn't even realize.
Yeah.
Right? Because I remember, I think it was before you had started, she was one of the first people, because she was probably my second job. And my first job I had to quit because the guy was, out of pocket. But this one, she had said some really, quite honestly, racist things. And I didn't know how to respond because I wasn't like, my parents raised me in such a neutral type of, I love everybody, which is beautiful. And so I just was like, what? So in hindsight, and I'm just thinking of this now based on her limited scope, because I think oftentimes that's what racism is rooted in: limited thinking
Yeah.
and exposure and range. Because when you travel like you have outside the US and I have, it's like the world's so much bigger than this, seriously.
Yeah. Mhm.
And but based on that, who knows, we really could have ministered to us, because our life is our biggest ministry.
Mhm.
So it's like, oh, look at these beautiful queens and they love each other. And I thought it was going to be something else.
Isn't that something?
Yeah. It never thought about until this conversation that we could have, affected her in a positive way.
You don't realize how we our gifts and goals, and we're young, affect others. I had an interesting moment. So my old boss, who I love dearly, her name is Nora Higgins. Okay, I'm saying her whole name. I
Okay.
love Nora Higgins.
Okay.
Nora is a Caucasian lady of
Yeah.
Irish descent.
Mm-hmm.
But she's just, and I met her when I worked in Michigan, and she was my superior, but she was a wealth of knowledge, but she was also very fair and very, what's the word I'm looking for? She just saw people. She really just saw people for, who they were. And she liked to, if she would highlight the positives also, but she was just an unusual woman, but in the fact that at that time, you know what I mean. So I asked her to do something, the same thing I asked for you to do, when I was asked to be on a board.
Okay.
And she wrote this thing and brought me to tears. Um, oh, my son is in here. Um, she wrote Part of what she wrote was something about how I gave her an enlightenment about racism in the workplace.
Really? I want to say, tell me more.
It was just like I had no idea that I had that kind of effect on her. You know what I mean? Like we spoke about a lot of things, and I mean, we probably had a lot of conversations, and I can't even recall because now we're talking like I guess 20 years ago now at this point. But you don't know, when you are finding yourself in a position. That's why I think that there are teachable moments all the time. She was never, I never, for the record, so everybody knows, I never, ever, ever experienced any type of funny feelings from her. She was not. But we were just talking about in the workplace and different circumstances and different situations. And she had the kind of heart that could hear and see at the same time. And that's what she was doing. And so for her to make that, I think I'm old now. See, we're talking 20 years younger. we didn't know our purpose then. You know what I mean? I had no idea, but the fact that I laid that she said that, it moved me to tears, and she talked about what she learned from me, and I'm like, I learned so much from her. I learned about how to, how to navigate the politics of the workplace, and how to, but still kind of get what you need and all. You know what I mean? It's just like, but that man, that I was moved to tears, and I wish I could find it and read it. But the point is, we all have we have these gifts that we're not aware of, and people are paying attention to what you say, how you say it, and you're leaving an impression whether you want to or not.
Facts. Facts.
Mhm.
Carissa, that's what I mean too when I say that there's an innocence to your spirit, not a naivety. Well, it may be maybe a little bit, but it's wisdom too. It's an innocence. It's again, scriptures comes up. So it's like, the Bible says you have to become like a child before you enter into the kingdom of God. So children are free and light and joyful. And I think that you have that as part of your spirit. And so, and yet being a woman of color, there's a nice balance in and how you articulate your thought. Like not too long ago, and I might have mentioned this to you. I was I had said something to you like, you're not answering my call or something. I don't know what it was, but you checked me in a way that I respected. And I don't even know if you processed it as checking me, but you were like, no, I'm not. And yes, I did, or whatever. And I was like, okay. But it was the way that it was just, it was almost like if I were to sum up like how I felt, it was like, I'm to be respected. This is my emotion. And no, I didn't. And I'm confident in how I feel. And so I could do nothing but respect where you're coming from. It wasn't like rude or anything like that. It was just like, okay, moving on. And it's cool. Like, and I don't know. I think that a lot of times, I don't know. I can really appreciate that. So I'm not surprised at all that she was like, oh, I learned so much because people call me a butterfly, but I see you kind of like that butterfly spirit too. Where you're like, okay. And you're just light and blah, 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 and unacceptable. Okay. Dude. Like what? And, yeah. And I deal with life in a way where I just use my words. I love words.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm very precise when I am confronted with racism or life or conflict. Sometimes I talk slow because I'm being very intentional,
Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
know.
Well, I think as a people we do that. We tend to do that because, like I said, there are always lessons, that we have to teach all the time, whether we want to or not. And we're also processing how the person in front of us is going to receive the lesson, and that's how So if a lot of words is what does it for that person in front of you, then that's what you do. Sometimes I find that I'll speak, so when I want to slow someone down, I slow down. When I really want them to like stop and put brakes on their actions, I slow down because I have to help them see where we're going here. But yeah, it really, for me, it depends on the audience. But the problem with me, and I'm my dad's child. I'm very passionate, and I'm not quick to anger. However, once I do anger, it's a terrible thing. And then I use a lot of words. I noticed that about me. Like I use a lot of words, and I don't want to be misunderstood. I get really like clear and intentional on what it is I need you to understand. And that's not always well received in the moment. You
Yeah.
know,
You know what's coming to me on that is energy. I'm thinking about exerting energy because and using a lot of words to me, I feel like that's a good amount of energy.
yeah.
And today, this lady really annoyed the heck out of me. It wasn't at work; it was another business situation. And my last comment to her was that, I remember the line I said, your level of unprofessionalism is daunting. And I ended the email with, I'm not going to entertain this topic with you anymore. And I was poised. However, in my spirit, I wanted to use some curse words. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I had even said to her in a previous, prior email, I said, listen, I'm not going to talk to you on the phone because I don't think that you know how to talk to people, and definitely not me. So rather than act out of character, I'm just going to keep it to email because that was my way of like distancing myself. Um, if I had to do it all over again, even though for that moment in time I would have given myself an A, because when I say I wanted to curse her out, I did. Because I don't know, I couldn't rule out that she wasn't behaving this way um, for some dark reason. I don't, whatever. And I don't know. I mean, that's,
Mhm.
whatever. I just know I didn't like it. But I would have, as because as we get older, we learn. Even though I would give myself an A because I didn't curse her out. I would have cut it off earlier
Mhm.
because I, when I think about us walking in purpose and intention, we only have 1 cup of energy a day, and I gave her 15% too much. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
Yeah.
In hindsight, I give her 5% because at a point in life, it's the same energy, same people, different faces.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
once you see it, it's like, oh, I see you. Okay, we good.
Mhm.
I'm gonna handle you accordingly. So that I'm gonna write in my journal today because even though I was proud of myself, I was like, oh my gosh, Heather, you were cool, you blah blah blah, and I didn't say anything character wise because I was really careful because she just was to me shady, and I just could have really said things because she was like, I've done this for 10 years. And I could have said, well, then you should know better.
Mhm.
Clearly, because I had pushed back on some stuff and I was right. And so that's why she backpedaled and blah, blah, but I'm glad I didn't, there was no outside of professionalism, no individual kind of like true character assaults based on, because I can,
Yeah, and
but,
I think with growth as we get
yeah,
older and
yeah,
wiser, because we've all had moments where what we did years ago is not what we would do
yep.
now. And I
Mm-hmm.
found myself in a situation not too long ago with someone very, 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 very close to me, and at some point the conversation was not helping him or me. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
It was like, so I just kindly said, I'm going to remove myself from this conversation. It's really, at this point, not productive.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
not productive. And the funny thing is, sometimes that person doesn't receive that either. They're like, oh, it makes them crazier. And so, and it's almost like holding a mirror up to them. Lack of speech is like holding up a mirror to the person who cannot stop themselves because you shut down, so they have only themselves to battle.
Yeah.
And that's what we have to do sometimes. But yeah, but it's different now. um Most definitely. But that's the worst when you have someone that's just, Hannah, I'm sorry you had to go through that today, because
It's
I know
okay. Yeah.
the feeling. But yeah, but you know, you don't want to give away, like you said, your energy. I'm proud of you.
Thanks. Yeah, I just that was interesting. When you said the non-resistance thing, it reminds me of what I picked up from the movie Gandhi, because when his oppressors were coming at him, he didn't resist, and he had said something like, you know, they end up seeing their own darkness,
Mm-hmm.
and when you can do that, that's kind of cool, but it does require suppressing the ego,
It
you
does.
know,
Mm-hmm.
and and I've come across that certain places, like, and it could have been Eckhart Tolle or somebody, but it's like when you when you let go of the ego, you don't have to prove that you're right, because that was a challenge on the other end, and it could have, and it's probably a little bit of, it was a challenge with me. Her and I extended the conversation because she wanted to be right, and I, in my mind, I was like, if nothing else, I'm the customer, so like just be quiet, at a point, and I did, literally have facts to say like, hey, you were wrong on this. um, but I again could have shut it down earlier, and I saw it before even going into this scenario with her. It was early on that I said, hey, the way you spoke to me, I want you to know, like, that's not acceptable, and the reason why I pursued working with her is because, quite honestly, she was a female in business, and I wanted to support and stuff like that. And I said that, and she said, oh, I really appreciate blah blah. And then later on, she still talked to me sideways, and I said, okay, this isn't going down. And I just got to email you because I mean, I know my limits. So it's all good. You live and you learn, and so there's key learnings for me in that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I could have nipped it in the bud, out the gate. So yeah.
Well, I'm for me, I have to be careful with my emails personally because from what I hear from people who sometimes receive the other end, I can be so direct. It can come off, especially down south. I notice I'm a northern girl, and so I pretty much just get to the point of things. I am not trying to ruffle feathers. I just want to get to the point. The fluff in between is stuff I don't need. It's just a waste of my time. I just kind of
Yeah.
need to get to it. And so I kind of write like how I talk, like,
Right.
and so, like, I could be nodding, but okay, but you were saying what was the need? Like I just have to get to it. And so I've been told that my emails can be kind of
Brash.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I have to work on, and then don't let me think that you are being less than um, nice to me. Then I really don't need to touch the keyboard. I just don't. It's
No,
terrible.
I
But I know
know.
it's not myself, and I won't touch the keyboard because I know that they're going to feel something that this is wrong, but I'm going to be honest here, that I want them to feel right away.
Right. Right. Yeah.
But I don't need to. I'm trying to be a good girl these days. Yeah,
No,
I'm trying to be a good grown up girl. But it's like I have to just stay away from the keyboard or revisit it later. Or like type it a lot and then not send it. It's just a
yeah.
lot. But I have to do that because on a good day, my emails are
Yeah.
kind of cool. But on a day where you have made it bad,
Yeah.
child,
Yeah.
it won't,
Yeah.
you know.
I find brevity is my friend. Less words when I'm peed off, so I can just limit. Just less words. Just less words. I'll say less is so funny. So it's
Yeah.
all good. But you live and you learn. So that's
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I don't want to keep you too long, but I will say I'm so excited about us getting together again. But I have to get with you and Dominique because on the 13th, actually, I'm supposed to do this jazz thing. I'm supposed to go.
Okay.
I forgot about that. But we're going to be doing a sisterhood
Yeah.
live, and
Yes.
that's gonna be fun.
I'm excited about that. Definitely excited.
So
So
much fun.
yeah. So I'll have to identify a date, and yeah, all about you know, people that the seasonality of friendships, you know, short term, long term, lifetime, um, you know, and just making sure you're equally yoked and you know, because that's again a factor in you moving forward in life. So love it. All good things.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with me. I'm sure I'll talk to you sometime soon.
You'll talk to me tomorrow, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Or Monday on the way to work, you know? But it's always
Yeah.
a blessing, all right? Yeah.
Yeah. So I love you. I
I love you
appreciate you
too.
so much. And I'm
Love
so glad people get to share what I get to see all the time. So this was fun. This is my
ditto.
Heather Lee. See, this is my Heather Lee.
And this is my Charissa. Blessed across the board. We are.
All right, lady. You enjoy yourself. My family
Okay.
decided to feed me, even though I didn't know what I wanted to eat, which I think that was very nice.
It is nice. I love it. Because you're lovable. You're lovable.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I'm gonna eat it, even though I don't need to eat it because Mama's gained some weight. Can you tell?
We both look great, so I know we're just hard on ourselves. So,
But Heather, you know what? I think it's been about extra.
you know what? Well, listen, I'll send you the Peloton app that I love. You can do classes anywhere. They have a 60-day free pass, and it's the bomb. Like they got yoga, they got strength training, you know. So if you decide that you want to do it, I'll do some yoga classes with you in the evening. Remember, because we used to work out anyways,
Yeah,
divine dance,
that
like
was
that stuff.
fun. I don't know.
I'll send you the app. I mean, we could do some yoga some nights. We could do. They even have bar. So it's 60 days free, and then after that, it's like $13 a month. It's like such a steal. It really is. So you don't look too excited. You always like to stay cute when you're working out. You do not look. You're like, okay. On that note, I love you, and I will talk to you later. Okay.
I love you.
So you too. Bye.
Bye.